In today's video, I want to talk about our emotions. Because in this world, we never make space for our emotions. So I think it's about time we try and understand them. So we'll look at what is an emotion and how do our emotions relate to our inner beliefs and how do we create our reality with our emotions. Hi, I'm Esther, QHHT Level 2 Practitioner, and my mission is to help people take their power back and become the powerful creators that we're all meant to be. First, what are emotions? Well, they say emotions are energy in motion. So what does that mean? It means that when we receive a certain vibration from the external world or when we're having an experience, this creates a chemical reaction in our body, and that is called an emotion. Emotions are created in our body in response to an experience. So this could be an experience we're having in the outside world or an experience that we're having through our own imagination. And our brain doesn't know the difference between the two. For the brain, they are both experiences and they are both valid. Dr. David Hawkins has researched our emotions and he's made a chart of our basic human emotions. So we can see that at the top we have what we call elevated emotions, high vibration emotions like joy and love. And at the bottom we have more low vibration emotions like guilt and shame. These emotions correspond to a state of consciousness, a state of being. And the low vibration emotions tend to make us feel less energetic, less dynamic, whereas the top emotions, the high vibrations emotions, tend to make us feel more energetic and more dynamic. So depending on which emotion we are feeling, we are then vibrating at that frequency. And whilst emotions are first created in the body, our brain processes this information and attaches a story to it, like a negative or positive story. And this is what we call a feeling. And our feelings in turn create our thoughts, and our thoughts in turn create our beliefs. So as we know, our beliefs, especially our inner beliefs, our subconscious belief, create and shape our reality. And so we can see that emotions are right at the base of how we create our reality. And that's why they are so important. And that's why we should give them more attention and be more aware of them. So we can live more consciously, so we can live life with more awareness of how we're behaving and how we're creating the world around us. And in the world we live in today, we are not so aware of our emotions because the world is very mind-based, very logic-based. And this is why we sometimes create things that we're not so happy with. That's why we create a reality that is not so much in balance. And that's why it's so important to be aware of our emotions, to be more conscious of them, and to be able to create a reality that would be more in balance. Greg Braden, in the Biology of Belief, points out that we can match the frequency of the reality that we want. And we can do this ourselves through our imagination by creating a thought and then attaching to it an emotion that corresponds to that thought. And we would make our body believe that this event has already happened. And so we would be conditioning our body to make this happen in the future. He explains that the top 3 chakras create the thought or the image, the idea. The bottom 3 chakras create the emotion. And by unifying these thoughts and emotion in the center chakra, basically the heart chakra, we create the feeling. And this feeling then creates the frequency that the universe aims to match and create into our reality. And that's the basic principle of the law of attraction. So to create something in our life, we need not to just think about it, but we need to feel this feeling for as long as possible and as often as possible to really create that possibility in the future, and to condition our body to this vibration, to condition our body to think that this has already happened, so we can be in this vibration and we can be in the receiving mode. And that's how emotions are really powerful tools that we can use to create our own reality. And I'm often reminded of this in my sessions. For example, in one of my early sessions, I had a client who was about to enter the past life. And instead of seeing the past life, all he could see was a red screwdriver floating in space. And we thought, well, this is quite unusual, but I know that the subconscious has a very effective way of showing us the most complicated things with the most simple images. So I thought there must be something into this. So I said to him, well, what are you meant to do with this screwdriver? And he said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, maybe you can ask, with your knowing, maybe you can ask the screwdriver what is its purpose. And he said to me, well, I can't speak to a screwdriver. It's just a tool. It's just a screwdriver. I said, okay, fine. So we moved on. But because I knew there was something in this, later on in the session, I came back to it. And in the part of asking the subconscious questions, I asked the subconscious, why did you show my client the screwdriver? What does it mean? And the subconscious said, we wanted to show him that he has all the tools to create whatever he wants in his life. Wow, that's cool. So now we know. And in the very first QHHT session that I received, at the time I was very depressed and very angry about my past. And I felt that I was carrying this anger with me everywhere and I didn't want it anymore. So one of my questions was, how can I get rid of this anger? And so when we came to it in the hypnosis part of the session, the practitioner asked me and my higher self, how can Esther get rid of her anger? And my higher self at that point said, what anger? It didn't know what I was talking about. And it's true that whilst I was under hypnosis, I was truly in the moment and truly in my heart. And at that point, I actually couldn't feel any anger. It didn't exist in me. And so this really reminded me, and it made me understand that there's actually a part of me that's never angry. There's a part of me that is always at peace. And so this anger is just something that I choose. Sometimes I choose to go that way, but I don't have to choose to go that way. I can also choose to go another way. I can decide to look at my past in whichever way I want. And this liberated me. I thought, wow, there's actually a part of me that is always at peace. And that was really beautiful. And so I realized that emotions are only tools that we can use at any given moment. We can always choose. We always have the power to decide how we are going to react or respond to something. So the more aware we are of our emotions, the more we have control over our behavior, and the more we can live consciously and create a beautiful reality around us. And from that point I thought, well, life is really fun because I've got this whole toolbox of emotions that I can choose to shape my reality. And James Turrell, a very famous contemporary artist, says that we give the sky its color. And this is so true because we have the power to choose always. We have free will, and it's totally up to us to decide how we need to respond to a certain situation. So our emotions are really power tools that we can use to shape our reality. And even the very low vibration emotions are still valid and they're still important and they're not to be dismissed. For example, anger can be a very useful tool. It's true that when we look at the world today and we see how we exploit humans, our brothers, we can see how we're destroying and polluting the planet. This might make us frustrated. This might make us angry. And that's a totally valid emotion. As long as we see it as a warning that things need to change, that we need to adapt, that we need to change the way we live. So in this way, anger can be an extremely powerful tool. And also, for example, if we're in an abusive relationship, we might feel unworthy, we might feel guilt, we might feel shame, we might feel not worthy of love. And these are totally valid emotions. Again, it's very important that we feel these emotions because they're here to protect us, to warn us that something has gone wrong and that maybe it's time to get out of that relationship. So if we can use them in that way, emotions are extremely powerful tools. But if we dismiss our emotions, or if we start letting them control us and become us, then in that case it's like we are being abused twice. First by our external environment and then by ourselves, by believing that we are these emotions and that is all we are, which is not. So the emotions are very useful as long as we can use them as tools and not be controlled by them. It's very important to put emotions back in the place where they belong. And in this graph we can see how one emotion can lead to another and how we can spiral up or spiral down. If we don't pay attention to our emotions, then this vibration just amplifies until the time that we realize what the message is with this emotion. So it's really important to be aware of our emotions because they do shape us and they shape our reality. And so if we want a positive outcome, if we're wishing for a positive outcome, really we can use our emotions to create that. And so by associating an elevated emotion, a high vibration emotion, to a thought, an idea, and feeling that for as long as possible and as often as possible, we're then conditioning our body and creating this possibility in the future and making our body believe that this has already happened. So this really will help us match the vibration of what we want. And that's how we can use our emotions to really shape our life consciously. And this is how we take our power back. So if you like this video, please let me know in the comments. Please like it and share it with your friends if you think this might be helpful. Don't forget to subscribe so I can create more awesome content for you. And until next time, have fun with your emotions and many blessings.